Duterte refers to Rodrigo Duterte, who is the current president of the Philippines. He was elected to office in May 2016 and has since implemented controversial policies, including a war on drugs that has resulted in thousands of deaths. Duterte's presidency has been marked by criticism and controversy, both domestically and internationally, for his human rights record, authoritarian tendencies, and outspoken and often offensive rhetoric. Duterte was previously the mayor of Davao City, a position he held for more than 2 decades. During his tenure, he gained a reputation for his tough approach to crime and his controversial tactics, such as the use of death squads to target criminals. These tactics have been criticized by human rights groups, who allege that Duterte has condoned extrajudicial killings. As president, Duterte has continued his tough stance on crime, and has also pursued policies aimed at increasing infrastructure development and promoting economic growth. However, his human rights record and controversial statements have drawn international scrutiny and criticism. Sure, here are some examples of Duterte's controversial actions and statements. War on drugs. Duterte launched a controversial campaign against illegal drugs when he assumed office in 2016. The campaign has led to the killing of thousands of alleged drug dealers and users, with human rights groups accusing the police of carrying out extrajudicial killings. Death squad allegations. Duterte has been accused of being involved in the use of death squads during his time as mayor of Davao City. Human rights groups allege that these death squads were responsible for the extrajudicial killings of hundreds of alleged criminals. Insults and offensive comments. Duterte is known for making controversial and offensive statements. He has called former U.S. President Barack Obama a son of a whore and referred to Pope Francis as a son of a bitch. He has also made crude jokes about rape and insulted women. China relations. Duterte's administration has been criticized for its friendly stance towards China, despite the two countries' ongoing territorial disputes in the South China Sea. Duterte has also been accused of being too soft on China's encroachment into Philippine waters. Human rights record. Duterte's administration has been criticized for its human rights record, with groups accusing the government of carrying out extrajudicial killings, suppressing press freedom, and restricting civil liberties. The Philippine government has denied these accusations. Martial law. Duterte declared martial law on the southern island of Mindanao in 2017, following clashes between government forces and Islamist militants. The move was criticized by human rights groups, who feared that it could lead to abuses by the military. Martial law was lifted in 2019. Sure, here are some additional examples of Duterte's controversial actions and statements. Attacking journalists and media outlets. Duterte has been known to attack journalists and media outlets who criticize him or his administration. He has called journalists sons of bitches and spies, and has threatened to revoke the license of news organizations critical of his government. Anti-LGBTQ+ stance. Duterte has been criticized for his anti-LGBTQ+ stance, including his comments that same-sex marriage will never be legal under his presidency. He has also used derogatory language to refer to members of the LGBTQ+ community. Threats against political opponents. Duterte has been known to threaten his political opponents and critics. He has called for the arrest of opposition politicians and activists, and has threatened to declare a revolutionary government if he is pushed out of power. COVID-19 response. Duterte has been criticized for his government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government's handling of the pandemic has been described as slow and lacking in coordination, with shortages of medical supplies and equipment. Duterte has also been criticized for using the pandemic as an excuse to crack down on political opponents and activists. These are just a few examples of the controversies surrounding Duterte and his administration. While he has been popular among some segments of the Philippine population for his tough stance on crime and corruption, his human rights record and controversial statements have drawn widespread criticism both domestically and internationally. Sure, here are some more examples of the controversies surrounding Duterte and his administration. Extrajudicial killings. Duterte's war on drugs has been criticized for the extrajudicial killings of alleged drug dealers and users. Human rights groups estimate that thousands of people have been killed since the campaign began, many of them by police officers. Anti-women comments. Duterte has been criticized for his comments about women, including jokes about rape and sexual assault. He has also made derogatory comments about female politicians and journalists. Controversial appointments. Duterte has appointed several controversial officials to his administration, including former police officials accused of human rights abuses and officials with ties to the Marcos dictatorship. Populist policies. Duterte has implemented several populist policies, including free education and increased healthcare spending. However, his administration has been criticized for its lack of transparency in implementing these policies, and for failing to address systemic issues such as poverty and inequality. Authoritarian tendencies. Duterte's administration has been accused of being authoritarian, with critics alleging that he has undermined democratic institutions and the rule of law. The Philippine government has cracked down on political opponents and activists, and has been accused of suppressing press freedom and limiting civil liberties. These controversies have led to widespread criticism of Duterte and his administration, both domestically and internationally. While he remains popular among some segments of the Philippine population, his actions and statements have drawn widespread condemnation and concern.